If I had known what was buried beneath that snow, I would have kept walking. But the diary wanted to be found, and now it won't let me forget what I read before I open its first page. Subscribe and stay with me. No one should hear this story alone. I found the diary on a winter road so isolated I hadn't seen another car for over an hour. A narrow passage of cracked asphalt twisting between walls of silent trees, their branches sagging under the weight of frozen snow. I only stopped because my phone had lost signal and my car had stalled without warning, leaving me stranded in a silence so deep that my own breathing felt intrusive. As I paced in the freezing air, hoping to catch a single bar of reception, my boot struck something solid beneath the snow, something that didn't belong there. When I brushed the frost away, I saw the corner of a black leather book, pressed into the earth like a jawbone waiting to be unearthed. Its surface was strangely warm despite the bitter cold. When I lifted it, the cover flexed in my hands, not like leather, not like fabric, but like skin reacting faintly to my touch. Every instinct screamed to put it back, but a sickening curiosity rooted me in place, compelling me to open it. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting from someone named Rowan, and the very first sentence read, "If you found this diary, it means the forest chose you." A shudder went through me so violent I nearly dropped it, but something in the ink, the thickness, the way the letters bled into the paper like veins, kept me turning the pages. Rowan described their first night trapped in these woods, hearing soft tapping outside their cabin, always in threes. Always patient, as if whatever followed them had perfect control over its presence. They wrote that the tapping never came from the same direction twice, sometimes above, sometimes below, sometimes from the center of the cabin where no walls stood. As I read, I felt the wind around me change, slowing, thinning until the forest went utterly still. The kind of stillness that feels staged, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see if I would continue. With every new line, I sank deeper into their fear. I learned how they discovered strange patterns in the snow, spirals of stones, crooked lines of broken branches pointing east, and long dragging marks, like something had crawled on its elbows through the drifts. As I stood there reading, I began noticing similar shapes around me, faint grooves in the whiteness nearby, slightly curved as if something had circled me without my noticing. I turned in place slowly, feeling the weight of the forest watching me from between the black trunks. The moment I looked up, something shifted far in the distance, a slow shape slipping behind a tree too smoothly to be human. My heartbeat spiked. I slammed the diary shut and forced myself toward the cabin I'd passed earlier. Its windows were dark and frosted, but at least it was shelter. As I trudged across the snow, the tapping began. Soft at first, like ice dripping onto wood, then stronger, becoming unmistakably rhythmic. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause. Growing closer with every step. I didn't dare look back, even though I felt eyes on my spine. The tapping followed me like a heartbeat all the way to the cabin, stopping only when I slammed the door shut and secured the latch. The silence that followed was somehow worse, thick and expectant. As I leaned against the wall, catching my breath, the diary warmed in my coat pocket like something alive. When I pulled it out, the pages opened on their own, fluttering to a section I hadn't read yet. Rowan described how they tried to destroy the diary, burning it, soaking it, tearing it, but each morning it reappeared intact beside their bed, lying open to a fresh page. Worse, sometimes the ink changed, rewriting itself with messages Rowan swore they had not written. Sentences forming in their handwriting that said things like, "I hear you," or "You shouldn't hide." The more they tried to escape, the deeper the forest twisted, rearranging the paths, repeating trees like mirrored reflections. Rowan wrote, "It learns through what we fear. The diary is its mouthpiece." I snapped the book shut again as a sudden, deliberate knock echoed right behind me on the cabin wall. 3 soft taps, perfectly spaced. I froze, convinced something was inches away on the other side of the wood, listening. When the knocking stopped, a faint scraping began beneath the floorboards, like fingertips exploring the underside of the cabin, dragging slowly along the wooden beams. It moved directly beneath where I stood until the vibrations crawled up my legs. I stumbled backward, clutching the diary. I had to read more. Ignorance felt more dangerous than knowing. When I opened the diary again, new ink was forming before my eyes, as if someone pressed a wet quill against the page from the inside. The words chilled me to the bone. It knows you opened it, and then it has your scent now. Every candle in the cabin flickered at once, as if something had exhaled. The shadows on the walls stretched slightly, like silhouettes leaning in to listen. The room grew colder, frost forming on the inside of the windows, swirling into spirals identical to those described in the diary. I realized then that Rowan hadn't been writing to warn future readers. They had been trapped, forced to document the creature's patterns as it studied them. And now it was studying me, memorizing the sound of my heartbeat, the pace of my breathing. Each detail I read seemed to call it closer. Soon the tapping resumed, softer than before, but now directly at the door. 3 gentle knocks that felt almost polite, as if whatever waited outside didn't need to break in. It only needed to be invited. I backed away, but the diary in my hands vibrated faintly, pulsing like a second heartbeat. I knew closing it hadn't helped. Reading it had already tied something between me and the forest that couldn't be undone. Rowan's last entry confirmed my fear. The moment you pick it up, it marks you. The diary is only the beginning. Before I could flip the page, a strong gust of wind shook the cabin walls, even though the air outside was dead still. The front door creaked inward as the latch began to slide up on its own, inching higher, metal scraping wood. My body locked in terror. I rushed forward, slamming it shut, throwing my shoulder against it. I felt a pressure push from the other side, not a shove, just firm enough to let me know something intelligent was testing the boundary. After a long moment, it withdrew. The weight disappeared as if the forest itself had stepped back. I couldn't stay there until dawn. Rowan had written, "Dawn does not come here once you are chosen." I checked the frosted window. The sky outside remained utterly black, no hint of light, as if time had been swallowed. Suddenly, the diary slipped from my hands, falling open on the floor. The pages flipped violently until they landed on a fresh, blank sheet. Words carved across the paper with invisible ink, forming in real time. "You can leave if you want." Followed by, "But it will follow the sound of your steps." And then, "It likes when they run." At that moment, all the lights in the cabin died, plunging everything into a suffocating darkness. I bolted for the door, throwing it open into the endless black forest, running blindly through the snow as the tapping followed me. Not from one direction, but from everywhere. Behind, ahead, to the sides, beneath my feet. 3 constant knocks that formed a rhythm, encouraging me to keep running. I don't know how long I fled. The forest folded on itself, repeating paths, showing me the same broken branch, the same cluster of rocks, the same spiral in the snow. The woods were reshuffling around me like an endless maze, guiding me deeper in. Eventually I collapsed, breath burning in my throat. When I lifted my head, I saw the diary lying in the snow again in front of me, open to the last page. Its ink was forming one final sentence. "You cannot outrun what waits for you." As I stared at it, a tall, pale silhouette emerged behind a distant tree, moving with a slow, confident grace. Its limbs bent wrong, its head tilting as if observing me with curiosity. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its attention like a hand pressed gently against the back of my neck. I knew in that moment, kneeling in the frozen dark, that Rowan had been right. The diary wasn't a warning, it was an invitation. And the forest had accepted mine the moment I touched it. If you're still here, comment below. I need to know I'm not the only one it's watching.